A few weeks ago, I was driving late at night. I've been a truck driver for years, and I thought a quiet route through some rural areas would clear my head after a tough breakup. I wanted peace, just me and the road. But it didn't turn out that way. I was cruising down a dark highway when I spotted an old car parked on the side. The hood was up, and beside it stood an old man in vintage clothes. He looked friendly enough, so I slowed down to help. But then he turned his head. His smile was wide, almost too wide, like something was off. A chill crept down my spine. I couldn't make myself stop. I hit the gas and drove away, not sure what I'd seen but feeling unsettled. Later that night, in the middle of nowhere, I picked up a hitchhiker. He looked out of place, leather jacket, long hair, like he had stepped out of the 60s. He hopped in and started talking about the forest we were passing through. He said it was haunted, that restless spirits roamed there. I didn't believe him, but the way he said it sent shivers down my arms. I dropped him off at the next town, but his words stuck with me. I felt like eyes were on me, even driving alone. The third night was the worst. I was on a lonely road, and everything felt tight, like the trees were closing in. I glanced in my rearview mirror, and I swear I saw a figure sitting in the passenger seat. My breath caught. I turned, heart racing, but there was nothing. I felt cold shadows and the sound of my pounding heart. When I looked back, the figure was gone. But I still felt that weight of being watched. These encounters haunted me. I started to wonder if they were real or just tired thoughts playing tricks on me. My hands sweated on the steering wheel, and my heart raced every time I approached those dark areas. It felt like something was wrong with that part of the highway. Then one night, driving back down that road, the presence returned. My heart raced as I glanced over. Nothing. Just my own reflection staring back. When I focused ahead again, I was sure I saw that same old car pulled over again. Part of me wanted to stop, to understand what was happening, but fear gripped me. I sped away. It felt like the faster I drove, the more trapped I became. Why do I keep going back? Maybe I want answers to questions I haven't asked yet. Or I'm just stuck on that road, lingering in the dark. Nights never feel quiet anymore. What was out there? I wish I knew. Each encounter leaves me wondering. It's like a shadow I can't shake. I just keep driving, but the questions stay with me. Why won't it leave me alone? I don't know what made me drive that route again. Maybe it was curiosity or just desperation to put those images out of my mind. The night was clear, but the air felt heavy. I knew I shouldn't be here, but I couldn't resist. As I approached the bend where I saw the old car before, I caught sight of headlights. They flashed bright and then dimmed, as if someone was flicking high beams at me. It sent a surge of adrenaline through me. I didn't want to be part of whatever was happening out here. I pressed down harder on the gas, feeling my heart pound in my chest. I rounded the corner quickly, and my stomach dropped. The old car was there again, hood up, the same man standing beside it, his smile wider than before. I could see his eyes glinting in the dim light of the moon. This time, I felt the urge to stop, to confront whatever this was. My mind raced. Was this just a coincidence? Or something more sinister? But the fear quickly pushed the thought aside. I kept driving. A few miles later, I spotted a light flickering in the trees. It flicked on and off like an old film reel, beckoning me. I slowed my truck, heart racing, and parked on the side of the road. I stepped out, my pulse quickening as I walked toward it. This time, there were no ghosts. Just a rusted old sign, "Beware the woods." Underneath was a map, worn and soaked with rain. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up as I glanced at the twisted paths drawn across the worn paper. My gut told me I shouldn't be looking closer, but I couldn't help it. Then, in the corner of the map, a date was scrawled, July 22, 1975. The same night of a vanished 3 people had disappeared in this very area. The story echoed through my mind as I held that map. What if the old man in the car was connected? And the hitchhiker? They were maybe trying to warn me, or worse, trap me in this web of shadows and lost souls. I shoved the paper into my pocket and backed away, unease pooling in my stomach. I hurried back to the truck, dread washing over me. Starting the engine, I felt a shiver run through my body. I glanced again at the trees, almost expecting to see faces staring back at me or fingers reaching for me. But the woods were silent. As I pulled away, I glanced in the rearview mirror. I wish I hadn't. There he was, that same old man, his smile pinched in the darkness as he seemed to wave goodbye. It wasn't a friendly gesture. It felt like a beckoning. That night, the shadows felt thicker. I drove faster, but dread rushed in, filling every inch of my mind. There was something about this road I still didn't understand, and I could feel it drawing me back. I wanted to break free, but every mile felt like a return to a question haunting me. Then, a vision flashed before my eyes, the old man and a voice whispered, "Stay with us." I slammed the brakes, skidding to a halt. The gnawing sense that I might not be alone in the truck crept up again. It tingled in my throat, haze swimming in my vision. I took a breath and looked around, heart pounding. Was there someone else in the shadows, watching me right now? I blinked hard, trying to shake off the disorientation that washed over me. My mind raced as I scanned the darkened roadside, but there was nothing, just the trees swaying in the night wind. Still, I felt a presence, something lurking, watching from the shadows. I took a deep breath and forced myself to focus. I had to get out of here. I shifted the truck into gear, my fingers trembling on the steering wheel. The road felt lonely, desolate, as the trees closed in on either side. But the thought of the old man kept creeping back. What was he doing out there? I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. I drove for a while, keeping the speed up, when I saw headlights in the distance. A vehicle was approaching. Relief washed over me. Maybe I wasn't alone after all. As the car got closer, I squinted, trying to make out details. It looked like a sedan, older, but not as beaten down as the man's car. As the vehicle passed, I noticed a young woman in the passenger seat, her eyes wide, staring straight at me. I felt a chill. There was something frantic about her expression. Then it hit me, she was mouthing words, but I couldn't hear anything over the roaring engine. What was she saying? I only caught a glimpse before the car vanished into the darkness behind me. I hadn't even realized how tightly I was gripping the wheel until I felt my fingers start to ache. I needed to turn around. I needed to know what she was trying to tell me. I made a U-turn, adrenaline rushing through my veins. The road felt more claustrophobic this time, the trees pressing in as the engine hummed beneath me. I thought about the map and the warnings. Everything around here felt foreboding. I started to question the wisdom of retracing my path. Was I really ready to face whatever lay ahead? Suddenly, the memory of the map flashed in my mind, the paths, the date. I glanced at my phone, the screen lighting up the cab for a moment. No signal. Of course. Out here, it felt like the world had cut me off. I gripped the wheel tighter, every bump in the road sending my pulse racing. Anxiety twisted in my gut. If I drove long enough, I knew I'd reach where I'd seen the woman. What if it lead me to danger? What if I found more than I expected? Then, without warning, my eyes caught movement from the left, a blur darting through the trees. My stomach sank, and instinct screamed at me to stop. I pressed the brake hard and shifted into park, heart pounding in my chest. I listened, straining to hear. Was that whispering? I couldn't make out the words, but it sounded like voices coming from the woods. My breath caught in my throat. I should turn back, but curiosity clashed violently with fear. Then I saw it, a flash of white. I squinted, and just for a moment, there was a figure standing amongst the trees. A pale hand reaching out. That's when I felt the truck shake, a jolt that sent me lurching forward against the seatbelt. My heart raced. Had something hit me? Or was it something more? I couldn't stay here. I had to get away. But I wasn't sure what I was running from anymore. I turned the key in the ignition, praying the engine would roar back to life. The figure loomed in the dark, still and silent, watching. Would I be able to escape whatever had found me? The engine sputtered for a moment before finally catching. I exhaled, relief flooding me briefly. The figure in the trees stood unmoving, waiting. My instincts screamed for me to go, and I slammed my foot on the gas. The truck lurched forward, tires kicking up gravel as I tore down the road, desperate to put miles between me and whatever darkness lingered back there. As I drove, the trees blurred into shadows, the night swallowing everything around me. My heart still raced, each beat a reminder of how close I was to something I couldn't name. I glanced in the rearview mirror but saw nothing, just the winding road behind me. I tried to shake the image of the woman's terrified face from my mind. What had she been trying to warn me about? I wanted answers, but I couldn't help the squeezing dread in my chest. I felt exposed, too vulnerable in this isolation. Now, the road began to fork ahead, a silent choice between two paths. One looked like it led deeper into the woods, while the other veered off toward a faint light in the distance. My gut told me to take the light, yet something in me hesitated. Was that hope or danger? Without thinking too much, I chose the light. I drove cautiously, my eyes scanning for anything unusual. The truck's headlights pierced through the dark, and I could just make out shapes. A dilapidated building emerged from the shadows. It looked like an old service station, almost abandoned, but flickering lights suggested I wasn't entirely alone. I pulled in, heart pounding as I clicked the ignition off. The silence was deafening. I stared at the station, wondering who could be inside. Did the woman's warning lead me here? As I stepped out of the truck, a chill settled over me. The air felt thick, as if weighed down by secrets. I took a few tentative steps toward the building. The door creaked open, and I hesitated. Maybe I should turn back, but curiosity drew me closer. Inside, the fluorescent lights buzzed, casting a sickly glow. I noticed an old gas pump still standing, the glass cracked, a spider web draped over it. I took another step and froze. A shadow crossed my vision. "Hello?" I called, my voice sounding small. There was no response. The whispering returned, louder now, echoing off the walls. My heart raced as I turned toward the sound. In the corner of the room, an antique radio crackled with life, static mingling with indistinct voices. It felt like someone or something was trying to communicate. "What is this?" I murmured, stepping closer, buoyed by a strange compulsion. That's when I noticed the photos hanging on the wall. Old, faded images of people I didn't recognize. Most were unremarkable, but one caught my eye. It was the same woman from the car. I stumbled backward, fear clawing at my throat. How was she connected to this place? The whispering intensified, rising to a crescendo. My instinct to flee almost drowned out the sound, but I couldn't tear my gaze from her picture. Then, just as quickly as it had begun, the whispering stopped. Silence fell heavy, and I realized I needed to find a way out before it was too late. I turned abruptly to leave, and that's when I heard a low, rumbling growl emerging from the back of the building. My feet moved faster than my mind could process. I sprinted for the door, the darkness chasing me. Would I be able to escape whatever was waiting? I burst through the door and stumbled into the night. My breath came in ragged gasps as I sprinted toward my truck, urgency pushing me forward. The growl echoed behind me, a visceral reminder that something was lurking just out of sight. I didn't look back, I couldn't afford to. Once inside, I fumbled with the keys, my hands slick with sweat. I slammed the door shut, locking it with a trembling hand. The truck's engine roared to life, drowning out the night's heavy silence. I threw it into gear and tore away from the building, gravel flying beneath the tires. I glanced at the rearview mirror, half expecting to see something chasing after me, but the darkness swallowed everything behind me. Relief washed over me, but I knew it was temporary. The dread returned, tightening around my chest. I stole a few glances around the narrow road. Were there any signs of the woman or the whispers? Or was it all in my head? The trees closed in on either side, and I tried to shake the feeling of being watched. The road wound further into the woods, desperation guiding me through the shadows. Just when I thought I might breathe again, my headlights flickered, then dimmed. Panic surged, and I slammed my foot down on the gas. The light struggled, barely illuminating the path. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears, a constant reminder of my vulnerability. I prayed for an end to the road or at least something familiar. Just when I thought I'd be swallowed whole by the night, I spotted headlights shining in the distance. I steadied myself, grateful for the sign of life. I drove toward them, the outline of a car coming into view. It was parked on the side of the road, engine running. Hope surged within me as I approached. Maybe they could help. Maybe they knew about the woman and the whispers. As I pulled alongside, I rolled down my window. "Hey! Do you know what is happening out here?" I called out, my voice a mixture of fear and urgency. The figure inside the car looked at me and then glanced back down. I squinted, trying to get a better look. A man sat hunched over, his face obscured by shadow. "Go!" he shouted suddenly, eyes wide with alarm. "You need to leave now." Confusion washed over me. Why was he so panicked? My instinct screamed at me to drive away, but my feet hesitated on the gas. "What are you talking about? Don't stop. Just go." He gestured violently, and in that moment, I saw a glimmer of movement behind him. A figure stepped out of the trees, shrouded in the darkness, barely visible. My breath caught in my throat. Before I could process the threat, the man inside the car slammed the door. "Drive!" he shouted again, voice trembling. Just as I shifted into reverse, the headlights illuminated the figure more clearly, a woman, her eyes wide and wild, lips moving as if trying to scream. I couldn't stick around to decipher what was happening. I switched gears and sped away into the night, heart racing as fear clawed at my mind. Was she trying to warn me as well? I didn't know if I should feel relief or dread for not stopping. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I caught movement. More figures emerging from the tree line, shadows of people that formed a line, as if waiting for something. The road ahead darkened, and an unsettling thought crossed my mind: whatever had drawn me to that service station was still lurking. I drove faster, but I couldn't shake the feeling that they were following. I needed to find a way out. The weight of the night pressed down on me, and the echoes of whispers haunted my thoughts. What had I stumbled into? And more importantly, would I ever truly escape it? The road stretched endlessly before me, darkness pooling in the corners of my mind. I kept my foot pressed to the gas, desperation steering me through the twisting path. But fear clawed at me, demanding attention. The shadows had grown thicker, almost alive with the whispers that echoed around my thoughts. It felt like I was being hunted. The trees seemed to lean closer, their branches like fingers reaching out to pull me into the night. I glanced at the clock on my dashboard. Time would be against me, as if waiting for the darkness to fully consume me. What did that man in the car see? What did he know? Just as I was about to dismiss it all as paranoia, I caught a flicker in my rearview mirror. A pair of headlights appeared, moving fast. My heart raced again. I focused on the road, trying to ignore the panic. But I couldn't shake the feeling of being hunted. I pressed harder on the gas, instinctively hoping to outpace whatever was behind me. The headlights grew brighter, they were closing in. I quickly checked the mirror, just as a chill ran down my spine. The other vehicle pulled up alongside me. I could barely make out the driver, a woman with a wild look in her eyes. She wasn't just any woman, she was the same one I'd seen outside that car moments before. "Roll down your window," she shouted, frantic, as if a storm was raging inside her. I hesitated, my blood running cold. But the urgency in her voice yanked at my conscience. If she had been there, facing whatever was after me, maybe she was my only chance. I rolled down the window slightly, ready to bolt at a moment's notice. "Please, you have to help," she begged, her voice losing composure. "It's not safe out here. Not for any of us." "What are you talking about?" I shouted back, panic making my words clumsy. "Just keep driving. Don't stop for anything." She screamed, and then she pointed behind me. "It's coming." I turned my head to look back, half expecting to see the darkness take form. But there was nothing there, only the unending stretch of road cloaked in shadows. The chill in my chest tightened. "Don't look," she yelled, and before I could react, she swerved away, her vehicle speeding off into the thick of the woods. I blinked, confused but desperate to follow her lead. I pressed the gas to the floor, heart pounding, racing ahead into the gloom, praying for the lights of a town or a familiar turnoff. As I drove deeper, the whispers grew louder, swirling in my mind like a storm. I fought every instinct to not let fear take control. The red glow of my brake lights flickered ahead, illuminating something on the road. I slowed down, squinting. It was a strange object, glimmering against the asphalt. I rounded down to examine it, curiosity pulling me closer despite every rational thought screaming at me to keep going. The truth settled heavily in my stomach when I realized it was a child's toy, a small, broken doll lying at an angle, its glassy eye gazing up at me, innocent yet eerie. The memory of the woman's words echoed, "Don't stop." The moment lingered, I was caught between curiosity and dread. That's when I saw it. A figure emerging from the trees, slipping into sight like a fading ghost. I knew in that moment, I wasn't alone anymore. I slammed the truck into drive and shot forward, adrenaline surging as I sprinted away. The child's doll weighed heavily on my mind, and I knew whatever I had disturbed was only the beginning of something far darker. The roar of the engine drowned out the pounding of my heart, but it did nothing to ease the tension washing over me. I fought with myself, trying to distance my mind from the broken doll and the figure I had glimpsed. The road ahead was a stretch of pure black, and I racked my brain trying to remember if I had passed any signs indicating a town. Suddenly, the air thickened. A prickling sensation crawled up my spine. I chanced a glance at the rearview mirror. The headlights were there again, but they were closer this time. I could see the outline of the vehicle taking form behind me, merging with the darkness. It wasn't just a pair of headlights anymore, it felt like a predatory gaze fixated on my every move. I fought the urge to panic. "Just breathe," I whispered, trying futilely to calm the storm raging within. But the whispers returned, louder now, fragments of words that bounced against the walls of my head. "Help us. Run. Don't stop." They twisted and turned until I couldn't make sense of them. Without thinking, I veered off the road and onto an unpaved path. The tires kicked up gravel, and my truck rattled. It seemed smoother than I expected, almost as though it had been driven on before. With each bump, I felt more disconnected from the world behind me. The faint glow of headlights faded as I rounded a bend, but I didn't slow down. I just wanted to be away from whatever was pursuing me. The trees around me grew thicker, their trunks blocking out what little light remained. I couldn't tell if I had made the right choice. My instincts urged me to turn back, but I pressed on, hoping for safety. Then, I saw it. A faint light flickering up ahead, piercing through the blackness. Relief washed over me. But as I neared it, dread clawed back. It was a cabin, dilapidated and surrounded by overgrown weeds. The window frames were shattered, and the door hung ajar. The light was coming from inside. My mind raced. Should I stop? If anyone was inside, maybe they could help. I considered the woman's warning. Don't stop for anything. Yet, the small hope flickering in my chest pushed me forward. What if I was not alone? What if someone else could shed light on the shadows that had been pursuing me? I parked and stepped out, the cold air biting at my skin. My breath clouded in the night as I approached the door. Hello? I called out, my voice barely above a whisper. No response. Only the sound of silence wrapping around me like a heavy cloak. Then, I noticed it. A glint of something metallic on the ground near the step, half buried in the dirt. With a cautious step, I knelt down to examine it. It was a key, rusted and worn, but unmistakably intended for a door. My mind whirled with possibilities. What did it belong to? Why was it here? Just then, I heard a rustle in the woods behind me. I snapped my head around, heart racing anew. Something was out there. The whispers returned, but now they were clearer, more insistent. Run. Run back. I couldn't ignore the immediate threat, the instinct to flee overpowering my curiosity. I dashed back to the truck, but I felt it something shadowy, something lurking just out of sight. I could hear it moving, can feel its presence as I fumbled with my keys. As the engine roared back to life, I glanced one last time at the cabin and froze. From the window, a figure stood illuminated by the flickering light, arms raised in warning or farewell. It was too dark to see their face, but I knew they were watching me as I sped away. What had I stumbled into? I didn't know the answers, but I had just become part of something much larger and much more frightening than I could have ever imagined. The road stretched out ahead of me like a snaking serpent, twisting and turning as if it were trying to lose me in the darkness. The truck's headlights cut through the night, illuminating patches of ground that slid by too quickly. I had no sense of direction, only the emptiness around me. The tension in my chest tightened, squeezing out rational thought. I gripped the steering wheel harder, reminding myself to focus. Somewhere, the echoes of the whispers lingered in my mind, urging me to act. But act on what? I felt like I was running, not just from whatever had been pursuing me, but from the dreadful unknown that had revealed itself too briefly. That cabin, that figure, I needed answers, but fear clawed at me. Rounding another bend, I caught sight of a flicker, a thin line of light slicing through the trees. My heart jolted. Was it another cabin? Or maybe something worse? I took a deep breath and slowed the truck. Cautiously, I approached the glimmering light, my instinct screaming at me to keep going. But curiosity won out again. As I neared, the light revealed itself to be a small clearing, and in the middle stood a lonely street lamp, flickering sporadically. The beam barely cast enough glow to see by, but it illuminated the ornate metal sign beneath it. Welcome to Larkwood. That name sounded familiar, but I couldn't place it. My mind raced through memories, desperately searching for context. I parked again, heart pounding louder now than ever. Climbing out of the truck, I stepped into the clearing. The air was still, but something about it felt charged, as if it were waiting for something to happen. A chill ran through me, raising the hairs on my arms. Suddenly, a thud echoed in the distance, followed by the sound of rapid footsteps crunching through leaves. My instinct screamed at me to run back to the truck, but my legs felt heavy, like they were tied to the ground. I turned slowly, scanning the edges of the clearing for movement. When I saw it, a shadow darted between the trees, quick and low, too fast for my eyes to catch. The whispers became a cacophony in my mind again. Help us. Run. They screamed in unison. The warning was clear. I needed to leave. Yet, before I could react, a voice broke through the dark. Stay right there. I spun around, heart in my throat. A figure stepped into the light of the street lamp. It was a girl, maybe in her early 20s, with wild hair and wide eyes that gleamed with panic. You shouldn't have come here. She shouted, her voice trembling. Who are you? What is happening? I managed to ask, trying to ignore the prickle of fear clawing at my throat. Please, just listen. You have to turn back. They're still watching you. She gestured wildly toward the trees. They know you're here. Before I could respond, the shadows shifted again at the boundary of the clearing. Something was moving, something more than just the wind. I felt the weight of unseen eyes pressing down on me. There's no time. She whispered urgently, backing towards the edge of the light. You need to. Then everything went dark. The street lamp flickered one last time before cutting out completely, leaving us in a suffocating silence. My heart raced. In the pitch black, even the whispers faded away, replaced by a deeper, palpable fear. I could hear the girl's breath quickening, the crunch of leaves underfoot, and then nothing. My pulse thundered in my ears as I felt the first push of panic. I had to get out. But which way? I was enveloped in darkness, and now I couldn't even see the girl. Please. I called into the void, but there was no answer. Just silence, and the growing sense that something was very, very wrong. I turned on my heel and dashed back toward the truck, chasing the fading sound of her voice. Whatever was lurking behind the trees was getting closer. I had to move before it found me in the dark. I stumbled forward, my hands outstretched, trying to navigate the pitch-black clearing. Panic clawed at my throat as I wrestled with my fear. I could feel the pressure of the night closing in around me. I had to find the truck. The earth was hard beneath my boots, but it seemed to swallow the sound of my movement. Each step felt like a gamble as I strained to listen for anything: a rustle, a snap of a twig. Each sound made my heart race faster. I quickened my pace, fear giving my legs a jolt. Then I heard it. A low growl, almost a whisper, rising from somewhere behind me. My heart dropped. I froze, dread flooding my body. The growl circled the clearing as if it was testing the air, searching for something. I could almost feel its intent. I turned again, but the darkness offered no comfort. Where are you? I shouted, knowing the girl was gone. Her warning hung in the air, but she was lost to the shadows. If I could just find the truck, I could escape this nightmare. I dashed in what I hoped was the direction I came from, breathing hard and praying I wouldn't trip. The trees seemed to close in tighter, branches reaching out like fingers. Then, unexpectedly, I bumped into something solid: a cool, metallic surface. My pulse surged. It was the truck. I was relieved, but my mind raced with questions. Why had the street lamp gone out? Where was the girl? And what was lurking in the dark? I fumbled for the door handle, my fingers trembling. Just as I yanked it open, a frantic rustling erupted from the trees. I bolted inside, slamming the door shut. The truck's interior welcomed me with faint glimpses of familiarity, though my heart still pounded in my ears. I fumbled with the keys, hurriedly jamming one into the ignition. It clicked but didn't start. My breath came in short gasps as I tried again, the shadows pressing against the windows. Come on, come on. I urged, twisting the key again and again. Finally, the engine roared to life. The sound soothed me, but the awareness of the lurking danger kept me on edge. I put the truck in gear and hit the gas. Gravel sprayed beneath the tires as I sped down the dirt road, the headlights slicing through the dark. But as I turned my attention back to the route ahead, I caught a glimpse of something in the rearview mirror. My stomach knotted. There, standing where the clearing had been, was a figure. I squinted, straining to see, but it melted into the shadows as quickly as it appeared. I pressed the pedal harder, fleeing the scene. I knew I should feel relief, but it was soon replaced by that nagging fear again. Who was that girl? What had she meant about being watched? The name Larkwood echoed in my mind. I had to know more. Before long, I spotted a flickering light in the distance. It was another roadside sign, but this one read, Larkwood, population 450. My heart sank with realization. I was heading deeper into mystery, not away from it. Something was very wrong here, and I had to uncover the truth. But before I could fully process this, a sharp pain shot through my chest as the feeling of being watched returned with a vengeance. I glanced at my side mirror again, and my breath caught in my throat. There was someone or something behind me, racing to catch up. I cursed under my breath, heart pounding wildly. I had just traded one fear for another, and the night was far from over. I drove harder, the trees blurring by as I focused on the flickering light ahead. It flickered just like the street lamp in the clearing, filling me with unease. A momentary glimmer of hope pulled me forward, maybe the town held answers, or at the very least, safety. But I couldn't shake the feeling of something chasing me. Whatever that figure was, it was still out there, lingering just out of sight. As I drew closer to the light, it revealed a gas station, relics of a bygone era adorning its rafters. The air buzzed with an unsettling energy, the silence amplifying the anxious thrum in my chest. I pulled in, tires crunching on the gravel, heart in my throat, scanning for movement. I stepped out cautiously, eyes flitting around, fully aware that the shadows felt alive. I could sense that anticipated stillness, the kind that precedes something ominous. The windows were grimy and the neon sign sputtered above the entrance, but there was a flicker of movement inside. My gut twisted. Hello? I called, the word almost lost to the night, swallowed by darkness. No answer came, only the quiet rustle of the wind weaving its way through the trees. I went to the door and pushed it open. The interior was dim but cluttered with remnants of what used to be. Dust danced in the few beams of light that seeped through. The counter was littered with old newspapers, some dated back to the 70s, their headlines a horror show of missing persons cases. My heart raced as the realization hit me hard. Larkwood was more than a name, it was a tapestry of secrets. As I sifted through the scattered clippings, I saw it July 22, 1975. The same date I'd seen on the map. The same date that had summoned echoes of tragedy. Suddenly, the sound of a door creaking rang through the room. I turned sharply, feeling the emergence of panic boil through me. A figure stepped in, an older woman, face creased and tired, eyes wide and frantic. "You shouldn't be here," she exclaimed, her voice an undulating whisper, trembling. "Not now. They're hungry." Before I could respond, I saw movement outside. Figures emerging from the tree lean, stepping quietly, purposefully. My breath caught. They weren't human, they were shapes carved from shadows, merging with the night. Who are they?" I stammered, panic rising. "They watch. They wait," the woman said, urgency twisting her voice. "Once you look, it's too late. You must," but I didn't want to hear the rest. The growling I'd heard before vibrated in the air, a low rumble echoing, growing louder. I gripped the counter's edge, desperate to escape the claustrophobia of her words, and darted back toward the door. My feet moved faster than my thoughts, urgency propelling me forward. "Don't stop. Get out," she shouted, but I was already in motion. Bursting through the door, I sprinted back to my truck, frantic adrenaline coursing through me. The figures were closer now, shadows stretching and reaching, malicious intent gleaming in their endless night. I scrambled inside, fumbling for the keys, hands shaking violently. The engine roared to life, and I slammed the gear into drive, lurching forward, gravel flying. I didn't look back as I veered onto the road. I could still feel eyes upon me, but I couldn't afford to stop. As I sped away, that nameless dread filled the truck, chilling the air even as the engine blared. My thoughts spiraled. The woman had been right, I shouldn't have come here. But it wasn't just curious folly propelling me forward, it was that pulsating dread, urging me to understand the deeper darkness that Larkwood held. With each mile, the fear morphed into a dull ache. The questions throbbed in my mind like a painful reminder. What would happen next? Could I ever really escape what had been beckoning me? The trees pressed in tighter, and I sensed the familiar presence from before, lingering in the periphery. The old man, the hitchhiker, the woman, they weren't just figments, they were intertwined with this place, somehow part of the mystery that pressed upon me with each turn. I turned a corner too fast, tires squealing, and spotted a sign, "Welcome to Larkwood." My thoughts fractured. I was back where I started, and whatever dark force was at play was by no means finished with me. Panic roared back, and that suffocating sensation made it difficult to breathe. I risked a glance in the rearview mirror, breath caught tight in my throat. The figures were there, merging with the shadows, mouths open wide. Though I could not hear a sound, I could feel their whispers echoing in my veins. I could feel it then, an unshakable sense that something beyond natural explanation was at play. And I knew, deep down, the answers I sought held both terrifying truths and haunting shadows. Whatever haunted Larkwood had drawn me in, and perhaps it was too late to escape. All I could do was drive deeper into the unknown, shadows closing in like an embrace, uncertain what awaited me at the end, the answers I craved or an unspeakable fate. I pressed on, the road endless beneath my tires, the dark beckoning me into closer embrace, and with each passing moment, I surrendered a little more, caught in the inescapable grip of the night.